Hey everybody, just wanted to jump on here before the podcast just to correct a couple things that I say in this podcast. I told everybody in this last episode that I wanted to be able to hold myself accountable and correct mistakes and things like that, and so I'd rather correct it on the front end before you get to that point and turn off the podcast or get offended or feelings hurt or whatever. But just in regards to keto and things like that, I had some of my percentages off there from a study that I'd read a little bit further ago that was kind of outdated now. And so instead of it being, an 87%, 88% of your calories coming from fats, it's closer to like an 80%. Protein's a lot harder to throw you out of ketosis than what I originally thought. And so I just wanted to kind of correct those things. Just in general, as you're listening to this podcast, obviously I say many people, I say most people, I say a lot of people. And so if this doesn't apply to you, then cool. But for most people, any diet that they ever hop on or follow seems to be for drastic results or to get weight off quickly and things like that. And so I just want to bring awareness to the flexibility of kind of choosing whatever diet that you can sustain to, that you can adhere to, and that you can do long term and that's easy for you to follow. At the end of the day, that's what's going to be most important for your weight loss journey and honestly just whatever fitness journey that you're on, building muscle, losing fat, whatever it looks like. There's always going to be things that, more optimal ways and things like that and having certain macro distributions to foster better goals. But when your calories and protein are equated, so when they're the same, then as far as if you're following paleo or if you're vegan for health issues, if you're vegan for lifestyle issues, if you're pushing keto, whatever it is that you're following or adhering to, as long as it's sustainable, and you're doing it healthy and you're doing a subtle deficit and not trying to do some crash diet, then I don't really have much of an issue with it. But anyways, all that being said, I just wanted to correct a couple issues with comments I'd made about keto. And if there's any others throughout the podcast, then again, I'll talk about it later. I welcome all discussion, so feel free to message me on any of my social platforms. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text, and I'd love to chat. So anyways, enjoy the podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm joined again by John, who you got to know so well in the last one. John, what are we going to talk about today? What questions do you have for me today?
Yeah. So what I thought would be fun to start off with is you see so much in the media, Instagram, social media, TikTok, wherever you are, fad diets. Mm-hmm. And I see so many advertisements of people going, hey, I've lost 12 pounds in 12 days.
Sure.
Obviously, they work. People are losing weight, right?
Yeah.
But also understanding that these businesses are out there to try to make money as well. And so what I thought would be interesting to do is just talk a little bit about fad diets, why it may work temporarily, but why it's not going to be the long-term success that you're looking for.
Sure. Yeah. So number one, they work because you're in a caloric deficit. So regardless of whatever they push, whatever they claim to do for you, the only reason they ever work is because they're in some sort of a caloric deficit.
Like 100%. All of them, they're going to be in caloric deficit.
Yep, without a doubt. You physiologically cannot lose weight if you are not in a caloric deficit. And so I think where it becomes the danger zone, if you will, the example I always go back to is when I was in college, we had a nutrition place open up, and they served Herbalife products. And the thing with Herbalife, a lot of their products are great. Like as far as like a protein shake is concerned, like they taste great. They have good micronutrients, all your vitamins and minerals in them. They taste great, so you're going to take it consistently. So at face value, they do not have bad products by any means. Right. Plexus and Pink Drink, like things like that. A lot of them that help with your microbiome and with digestion and things like that. All good products individually. Where the issue comes into like how they're implemented into your daily life. And so they did kind of like a weight loss competition, or Herbalife is typically another one of those that has, the 60 pounds in 60 days. You see just the drastic weight loss type things. And so one of the nights, because they were trying to kind of coach me to come on and be one of their nutrition coaches and things like that. And so I was kind of shadowing, if you will, one of the coaches. And so he was meeting with his 3 clients, all females, and it's like, all right, recap for the day. What did your day look like today? I'm like, okay, well, I woke up and I had a shake, and then had a handful of almonds, and then I had another shake, and then I had one of the protein bar things for dinner. He's like, awesome. All right, next. And I was like, whoa, hold on a minute. This girl just ate 800.
This is the entire day?
Yeah, that's it. That was breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack. And I was like, well, okay, that's it. I mean, you're looking at 900 calories, and and I'll even after saying all that, I'm not going to label that every coach implements things that way. But it was super eye opening to me. It's like, okay, well, no wonder these people are losing this kind of weight. It's not their products are magic, because again, if we had the cure to fat loss and it was a $40 product at GNC, then it would not be $40.
Right. Yeah.
I'll say that story for another day. Lots of fun GNC stories like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's the caloric deficit side of things. But we as a people, I mean, from grocery pickup to being able to watch Netflix from our home instead of even just driving down the road to a Red Box, or even before that, a Blockbuster, we want instant gratification. We want everything to happen now. We are a lazy society, and now even with COVID and anything else, it's like, how can I do things here now? We're locked at home, things like that. You've got machines now that people, for whatever reason, buy, because they think that they can stick it on their stomach and it'll make really quick vibrations. That
Wait, I'm not gonna get a 6-pack?
No, you're not.
I'll return it. Okay.
Yeah. Get your money back. Your 5 payments of $19.95. But I think that at the end of the day is the problem, where they have like good products they have in place, but then they cross that line by, all right, how much weight can we lose super quickly? And I think a lot of those, keto is a similar kind of direction. I know we're going to get to that in a little bit, but they all drive off the fact that we can get you results very, very quickly. And so the downside of that is that whenever you start doing that, your body, from the moment that God created us, like, we're built to survive, and our body is always going to put that as its preference. Our body does not want it to be an efficient source for like burning fuel and things like that. It wants to preserve and to last as long as we can. So whenever we have, whether it's yo-yo diets, whether it's crash diets, it registers and pays attention to how often we eat, how much we eat. And so when we eat very little, it starts to register, hey, we're only getting 900 calories. We've got to figure out, we only have X amount of fat stores, so we've got to figure out how that we can survive on this 900 calories. Or the people that fast, or they do that every other day fasting, things like that. It's like, okay, we're only eating every so often, so we've got to slow down these metabolic processes, these processes of just daily living and calorie burning. We've got to modify that, because otherwise we're going to die of starvation.
Yeah.
That, even though it may not be the case, you've got a closet or cabinet or whatever full of snacks and things. Our body doesn't know that. Our body thinks, okay, we're not eating very much, so let's slow everything down and be as efficient as possible. If it was up to us, who want to be lean and lose weight or whatever, we want to be as inefficient as possible. We want to burn through calories like there's no tomorrow, and that kind of thing. And so it, that kind of.
Okay, so and I know we're going to talk about some of these specific diets in here, but from a macro level, these diets work because you're in a caloric deficit. But if they worked all the time, you wouldn't see people hopping from one thing to the next.
Oh, sure.
So what are the effects of something like that that's in a caloric deficit for that long? You lose all the weight that quickly. What does it do to your body ultimately?
Sure. Well, even if you're, slowly in a deficit, even doing things the right way, your body adapts. It's constantly adapting. That's why you can eat a certain number of calories, and then you eventually hit these plateaus and you hit these walls. And when you diet for so long, you eventually have to reverse diet, and you've got to kind of like ramp your metabolism back up and give it some fuel again, because it's been so low for so long. So when you do these crash diets, or you do these even yo-yo dieting, going super low to super high to super low, our body just eventually slows everything down, like I said. But it makes it to where it needs fuel. It needs fuel to operate. There's kind of like this gray area, if you will, of hey, here's too low. Too high, you put on weight, but if you eat too little, you're not going to lose weight either because everything starts to slow down. So you have to find that like happy medium of, okay, like this is the amount that I can eat in a deficit, but it's not so low that, we can still, our body will always pull from fat sources and things like that when we're in a deficit, because it's still going to find ways of making that, when we're in that negative energy balance, it's like, okay, we burned 2,500 calories, but we only ate 2,000. We'll make up that other 500 calories by pulling from fat stores and things like that. But when it's so low that instead of just kind of surviving that way, and then we just crash diet, that's when you get all the loose skin. That's when and some of it's unavoidable, but when you do that for so long, then you always are going to have to reverse. You're going to have to kind of do a lot of repairing the damage, essentially.
So you're ultimately saying, though, I live off of, let's take you nice guys, I live off 1,000 calories a day for 3 months. Eventually, I'm going to stop losing weight. Let's say I'm 400 pounds.
Sure.
I need to lose 200 pounds. I'm eventually going to stop losing weight.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And so it comes from, your metabolism, even as a 400-pound individual, it's going to be higher because of the weight, but also the lack of muscle mass is going to have your metabolism much slower than somebody else. And so then the longer you eat at even an extreme deficit like that, the harder it is to sustain. Your hunger levels and hormones are out of whack. And then you eventually just hit this wall of misery. I mean, and again, extreme cases, they'll do them a little more drastically because your life is somewhat at risk. But for the average individual, the slow and steady route is something that's sustainable. It keeps your hormones in check. Like, yeah, you're hungry now and then, but when you do these drastic, all right, 3 months, I'm going to lose 200 pounds, whatever. I mean, eventually you hit that wall where your body's like, hey, like, we don't have the energy to fuel your weight loss journey type of thing. All the processes slow down. You have a thing that called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that basically encompasses all the things that you do that still burn calories. So fidgeting, tapping your foot, the desire to get up and get a glass of water, your body starts shutting down all of those processes so that you don't want to do those things.
So complete preservation.
Yeah. So like, hey, anything that burns calories outside of like what we're doing to survive, like done. Like you're not going to want to work out. Like your hormones have an insane control over the things we do and eat and want to do and how processes work. And so when we're in that super low crash diet kind of phase, then it just makes it to where we're not doing anything. We're going to sit here on the couch and do absolutely nothing and eat our 900 calories and hope for the best. That, I always think of girl in the office when she does her juice cleanse. What's her name? Take it. All of our office fans are going to hate us.
I know. It'll come to me as we end the
podcast. But when she's doing her juice cleanse, she's like, it's going to be great. And it's like 2 days in and she's just on her deathbed. But yeah, it's that same sort of thing. Like to what cost, to what end, to live in misery for that long at such a low deficit.
But what do you say to the person that goes, all right, maybe I don't have to lose 200 pounds. Maybe I need to lose 30 pounds to feel good. Let's do this crash diet. Let's lose the 30 pounds quick, and then I'll just kind of slowly get back into normal eating. I mean, I know we're going to talk about at some point, probably later on, a different podcast about reverse dieting, what that does to your body, how you set yourself up for success. But I can see where some people would justify going, I'm going to do the quick fix so that I drop the weight, feel good about myself, and then I'll slowly start to work out and eat right.
Sure.
Why wouldn't that work?
Yeah. So it's going to have that long-term effect of slowing down your metabolism. And so whenever the more muscle you have, the more lean body mass you have, the higher your metabolism runs. So your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, those calories you burn when you're at rest, is essentially that goes up the more muscle mass that you have. And so when you're doing these crash diets and things like that, it's much harder. Anytime you're in a deficit, it's very hard to build muscle, much less even just maintain it. Like you're going to lose some muscle on the way. So the more drastic that is, then the more quickly you lose that muscle, and the long-term slowdown of your metabolism kind of comes into play. Then on the flip side of that, anytime you do eat, kind of go back to the starvation thing. So our body's fat cells, they can shrink in size, but they can't ever go away once you have them. They just basically become depleted. But on the flip side, if we eat in a calorie surplus, especially a drastic one, so when these yo-yo diets, you'll always see like the people lose the weight and they gain it back and then some. It comes from that. And so whenever our body can always develop new fat cells. So that's why it's so much harder to get the weight loss off after you've lost it, gained it back, and then gain some more. our body will create new fat cells, which then again, as we're in a surplus, makes it much easier to store later on. But all we do whenever we deplete them is shrink them. They never go away. And so every cycle, it just gets easier and easier to add in.
And you see that often, right? I mean, it's like, hey, I lost all this weight. I rebound. I have to work harder to lose the weight. I rebound again. Sure. It's like this sick cycle just hitting back and forth and back and forth.
Oh, yeah. You see it most often with like people that run keto normally. And again, keto, when done properly, it's fine. You can do it for 3 to 6 months and cycle off. But it's not this miracle diet that people.
Well, let's just unpack that. Sure. So, I mean, it's not a miracle diet. You're saying you can do it in increments of time, and it can be a good thing. What's the overall goal of keto? Why is it so popular? And if you can do it incrementally, why couldn't you do it sustainably long term?
Sure. A lot of different variables to it. I mean, carbs get a bad rap in general and things like that. You know, sure, it causes inflammation and all these sorts of things. And again, it's one of those throwing the baby out with the bathwater type situations where there's like some truth. Like carbs do not keep you full very long, especially if you're doing, you know, white rices and things like that. They're not complex carbs. They don't have a lot of micronutrients. But instead, they're like, okay, because of those things, like we're just not going to do carbs ever. And so here comes keto, which is still different than a high-fat, low-carb diet. Most people, that's what they run. They still have a lot of protein, which will still throw you out of ketosis. And then you have, you know, high fats, and then they'll just keep their carbs at, you know, 50 grams. Well, keto is really like 87, 88% fat, 6 to 8% protein, and like 2 to 3% carbs. So even then, it's still super hard to maintain lean body mass. You're burning more fat, yes, but you're also eating more fat. And it's much easier of a process for your body to store fat than it is to digest carbs and then store excess as fat.
So why does it work if that's the case?
Caloric deficit.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the reason that people enjoy it so much. I mean, even people always harp on carbs and spiking insulin and things like that. And so that, you know, it's a storage hormone and things like that. It makes it easier to store fat. But if you're in a deficit, there is no excess to store as fat. And so that's what it'll always come back to. I have people that I talk to, they're like, keto only worked for me. You know, it's nothing else works type thing. It's like, okay, well, what are you eating on keto? It's like, well, I hop on keto and eat 1,500 calories. It's like, okay, well, then when you hop off keto, what do you eat? Oh, I don't really track my food when I hop off keto. Oh, okay, so you're eating probably 4,000 to 5,000 calories. Yeah. Got it, you know. And again, like some of like the benefits of it, you know, fat is more satiating than carbs are. And so like a high fat, low carb diet has the benefits for like keeping full. And again, when it comes to just a normal high carb or high fat, low carb diet, can fairly well be on board with that. If you're not doing crazy workouts and things like that where you need carbs and you need that quick energy and things like that, then carbs in my mind are not as necessary. It's more of a personal preference thing. If your calories, every study that I've ever seen, if your calories and protein are equated, so they stay the same, the carbs and fats, other than fats having a lower extreme, you need to have like a baseline just for hormones and joints and things like that, for all of that to stay stable. But other than that, carbs and fats can pretty much fluctuate. However, it's when your protein starts dropping and you get to these crazy low.
So are you saying carbs aren't necessarily essential? Because you see these people who, like, and I've had friends who've done it, they go like, hey, the first 30 days sucks. Like, I just feel like garbage. But then after that, once you kind of push through that, they talk about insane energy, feel great all the time, but they don't ever seem to stick with it longer than 6 months. And it's like, once you're off of it, you're off of it.
Sure. And that's kind of where, no, carbs are not essential. I mean, it's a personal preference type thing, and it's a very quick energy source. So if you're doing things that need quick energy, then carbs are your go-to.
Well, okay, so pause right there.
Yeah.
What about? Okay, so one of the things you may not know if you've not followed you and I on social media is like we're on this road to 220, right? Sure. You're trying to get down to 220. I'm trying to get up to 220. But both of us are lifting very heavy in the gym. Are carbs essential for that type of training regimen?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Carbs are going to be that quick energy stores. You know, when we digest it, we've got glycogen that our body uses, you know, when we're lifting, for recovery afterwards. It gets protein to the muscles to stimulate recovery quicker. So having that pre and post workout carbs, your body will never metabolize fat to that extent and to that speed that it would carbohydrates. And so that's where the workouts always like really tend to suffer if you're running keto. If you're doing anything more high intensity where you need that quick recovery, you need the quick energy source, fat's never going to metabolize
so
to
then
that speed.
If I'm putting all this together then in my mind, that's why you're saying for some people it may be fine to do a low carb diet. If you're not strenuously working out in the gym, you're trying to just shed a little bit of fat, you're still eating healthy with it, that's why it may work. But if you are someone that has different goals in the gym where you're trying to gain strength or size, it's not going to be the best outlet for you. Am I equating all that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have plenty of clients that are like, which I cannot relate, but I don't like rice, I don't like pasta, I don't like breads, like carbs are just not my thing. I prefer to have avocados and oils and whatever. It's like, cool, like do that. And then for your workouts, I'll give you, 50 grams of carbs, have 25 before and 25 after. Just to stimulate and fuel your workout. And then the rest of the day, I mean, you're sitting at home working and you're barely moving. Like, then focus on, fats and proteins and things like that, and have your salads with all your vegetables and such. And that's always my recommendation. It's always a personal preference, and it's a sustainability thing. The only like requirement is everybody's got like a baseline fat requirement, basically, just to keep everything functioning properly. But
I think this is one of the reasons too why we talked about it in the first podcast. Like with online training, you're able to monitor all that and kind of see everything in there, set it up based off of their goals. But what I think what these fad diets do though is they just go one size fits all. Yeah, it's either true or it's not true. What you're saying is keto can be a good tool, but it may not be a forever tool for some people. Yeah, I know. Listen, I love meat, but I know I can't do no carbs, or extremely low carbs. I would just be miserable.
Yeah, and the big proponent of, again, back to that instant gratification thing, what you see with all the fad diets, keto's sort of the same way. You hop on it, you drop up carbs, and so you lose a lot of water weight. All your glycogen stores get depleted, so any excess carbs your body stores to use for whenever it needs it. Much shorter time than like fat and things like that. But whenever you lose all this quick water weight, so everybody's like, see, I hop on keto, I lose the weight instantly, like we're good. And it's like, well, like eventually that stops, and then over the long term, couple months in, now you're like, okay, I'm tired of smothering my steaks in butter and things like that. Like there's a professional bodybuilder.
You mean heavy whipping cream is not the best thing to eat every day?
I couldn't imagine. But yeah, so you just start to feel sluggish and things like that. And again, most people don't stay in like actual ketosis for very long, or don't do it the actual right way. They're doing some sort of a high fat, moderate to high protein, low carb. And those, like, I can be a much more proponent of if you just prefer fats to carbs type of thing. But it's whenever you go full ketosis, I mean, there's a whole science of like cycling on and off, and it's not supposed to be sustainable. It can help these certain like health conditions and things like that, not necessarily having everybody follow it for a long period of time, and et cetera, et cetera.
The only thing I can remember from ketosis in college nutrition with Dr. Foote was it makes your breath smell bad. Like if you're in true ketosis, like because you're expressing all the keto, like your breath smells terrible. So let's switch gears though. Let's talk about one that we've seen become really popular in the fitness industry is something like Octavia. Yeah. Or maybe not even calling out specifically Octavia, but just those types of diets where you're going to take these types of supplements. You have to take these types of supplements for this to work. Sure. Why are they popular? Why does it work? Why does it not work?
Sure. Yeah. That whole, similar to kind of what I mentioned on with like Herbalife and things like that earlier, Plexus, Octavia, all of them having those products on the front end aren't inherently bad. It's just how they like implement those. Like you've got some that help with digestion and some that help with recovery, and even your BCAAs and your pre-workouts. Like they have all these lines of supplements that aren't inherently bad. It's just how they implement it and do their diet, and their portion control is like, here's your 2 ounces of meat and a salad and then one of their like protein bars. And so at the end of the day, again, they're eating 1,400 calories.
Deficit,
exactly. They're in a caloric deficit. And the frustrating part for a coach is the money that they make off of it. And they're charging $600-800 a month just to have their necessary whatevers. But then on top of that, you're losing 12 pounds in a week, and that's just super unhealthy. There's no education process. There's no like, there's even here in Northwest Arkansas, there's a place that their kind of concept is like, hey, we're going to crash diet you down to like your goal weight and then slowly like kind of build up and add food back in, and it's just that instant gratification. We can't be patient. We can't. If I could just show people, hey, 6 months in the future, here's what it's going to be if you crash dieted, versus, hey, here's 6 months in the future if you just did slow and steady. Like, here's how much better energy you're going to have. Here's how much more efficient you're going to be with your workouts, and how easy your eating's going to be, and
less chance of rebound.
Yeah, just all this stuff. Yeah, rebound is a great a word to use. When you crash diet and your body finally just hits that breaking point of like, okay, I'm just so hungry, my hormones are out of whack, like I borderline have no control over what's going to go in my body, and you just have these like binge sessions. Okay, well, now you feel bad, and now you slowly over time you develop these terrible relationships with food. I mean, I still have clients that come to me that are like, hey, like I did keto, or hey, I did this, but now like I don't eat these certain foods. Hey, like, is this okay for me to have this? Like, I mean, it just becomes this, even the phrase like cheat meals. Like, I even have clients that will say that without me ever like mentioning it. They're like, hey, like, it's just kind of one of those days I'm feeling kind of lethargic, can I have a cheat meal? It's like, hey, like, we can refeed, we can whatever, but this negative connotation with food that gets
I'm
developed.
doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you I'm doing something wrong to make me feel better about it as a
Right.
client.
Like, hey, yeah. And it just, I don't know where we came from. I mean, we reward ourselves with food. We punish ourselves by taking away food. Like, it's just as a society, a super weird concept that we've generated. So I always encourage clients, like, hey, when you hit 10 pounds, like, instead of going beltless, like my clients have for 3 months, like, yeah, I still need to get a new belt. It's like, hey, how about you go buy a new belt instead of like, hey, I lost 30 pounds. Let me go like binge eat. Hey, like, congrats, 30 days without smoking a cigarette. Let's have a smoking party. Like, it's just, we have like an addictive personalities, and especially when it comes to food. And so it's super easy to.
So all of these diets that have a supplement involved, or all supplements involved, as you see with some of them.
Yeah.
Still the same concept, caloric deficit.
Oh, yeah.
I think what's interesting to me, though, is like, it doesn't seem like there's ever we're going to get you out of this phase, right?
No.
I mean, am I wrong in that? I mean, are there... I don't know enough about what these companies are selling to be able to comment educatedly on it, but it feels like to me it's the quick fix. Let's lose the weight, and then you're gone.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why they charge an arm and a leg for it. I mean, those supplements are not that expensive to make. I mean, the markup on on most of those, working at franchise GNCs, you get to see the markups. You see what the $15 that we bought Cellucor pre-workout for, and we're selling it for $40. So you see all those margins and stuff. So same thing with these. I mean, they got their $800 for 4 months. You lost 40 pounds. If you've stalled, like, there's no coaching or anything like that. And if you do have a coach, you're paying extra. And so once you hit those goals and like you've plateaued, they don't know how to. What's your option? If you're eating 1,000 calories a day and now you've plateaued, do you go lower? 800 calories, 600 calories?
But eventually you're going to get to that point where you can't
you're eating
lower.
nothing. Yeah. And so now you go reverse. Oh, we don't do that. So now you've got a client who's starving, their metabolism is shot, and nowhere to go. But okay, well, I'm just not going to pay you X amount of money anymore. Well, now they're burnt by anything in the fitness industry. You've got coaches like us. They're like, no, let us show you the right way. Oh, I don't believe you. I mean, your wife and I had a conversation the other day of, with a client that had been ghosted multiple times, by coaches. I mean, once you get burnt by something like that, then it's no longer an option, and they just become super cynical and burned by everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, and I get that because it's empty promises, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's like, hey, we're going to get you there, and then we're going to teach you all these things, and then they don't fulfill any of that. I mean, listen, I go to a bad restaurant and the food is terrible. I probably don't go back again. But I think the interesting thing about it is, I'm going to go to another restaurant. We don't look at it with fitness that way. It's like, hey, we have one bad experience, so we're just done with the fitness industry together, rather than going, no, do your freaking homework.
Sure.
Like, what you're signing up, paying $1,000 a month for these supplements, probably isn't the best thing for you to do long term.
Yeah.
And I think about, too, even just about, you talking about cheat meals, probably because there's so many places that are out there like going, you can't eat these things. Now we look at it as a cheat meal, helps to make all of that just kind of in your mind turn, this is evil, rather than, no, this is fine. So think about even those types of diets where it's Whole30, for example. I'm going to eat these types of things. Anything of these types of things is bad. In bounds. Or on the outside, or you can't eat these types of foods. It seems to me like those would be still on the better side than just taking a supplement type thing. Like, hey, I'm going to eat Whole30. I'm only going to eat, fresh steak and potatoes. In my mind, maybe it's just because I like those things. I'm not going to eat those things all the time. I go, okay, well, I feel like that's a better option. What then, as a coach, though, what do you teach your clients? Because if it's not restrictive, at the same time, I know I can't eat cupcakes every day.
Sure.
Which, again, I'm saying me. I'm trying to gain weight, so maybe I can't eat cupcakes every day. But if I'm not going to do keto long term, I'm not going to do Octavia or Weight Watchers or whatever it is long term. I'm not going to just eat a specific meal plan. What do you then teach your clients to do?
Sure. So for my clients, it's always the flexible dieting if it fits your macros approach.
Explain that just like in layman's terms.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
So basically, nobody can get it spot on at the beginning, but we do an educated guess essentially of how many calories they're burning in a day. We calculate that, and then we break up their calories into 3 macronutrients, so your protein, carbs, and fats. And then from then, you basically treat it like a budget. And so where the coaching comes in is now I track them week to week and kind of see how the scale fluctuates. Are we losing weight? Are we gaining weight? Are we losing too much? Are we gaining too much? And so totally dependent on whatever their goals are, and we make those adjustments. And so by tracking that, now it's, like I said, you treat it like a budget. So you know that you've got to get, X amount of protein, X amount of carbs, X amount of fats in a day. And so if you want to have a Snickers bar, like fine, but now you've got to track that. You scan the barcode into your MyFitnessPal or whatever tracker you're using. And if you want to sacrifice, 30 grams of carbs and 10 grams of fat, then fine. Just know that, it's not going to be very filling and things like that. But some people just need that. And so it gives them the freedom to kind of eat however. I had a client that just the other day messaged me and was like, I've only been doing this for 2 weeks. And, we went to a couple like breweries and we just kind of ate or whatever food and, did all this. Like I woke up feeling awful this morning. I'm bloated. I feel gross. Like I just feel absolutely miserable. Like I'm going down to the hotel gym right now to get a workout in and try to like sweat some of this out. Like I never in my wildest dreams thought that having the freedom to eat like certain things, but you also start to see like, okay, 400 calories for a grilled chicken salad with like some light Italian dressing. I'm full. I don't feel gross. Or you can eat, like you said, a couple cupcakes. It's more calories and you feel disgusting.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And so it gives them the freedom and slowly starts to, it's not a quick fix and it's not an instant fix. I'll still have clients who are like, wait, so I can, like, is it okay if I eat this? Like, hey, there was pizza, so like I, had a slice, like, but I shouldn't have. I should just not eat anything. No, like it's okay, and
eat the slice of pizza.
Yeah,
right?
It takes a little bit to kind of develop that like no guilt, and no, we don't want to eat pizza at every meal. No, we don't want to go to a Planet Fitness where they have pizza on Fridays or whatever, like to eat after your workout and just crazy stuff like that. Yeah, that's again going the too far. But it allows you to still have that balance. Like at the end of the day, our getting lean and shredded is not the end goal. Like that is not why we're here on earth. Like it's friendship and it's communities and things like that. And so having, if it fits your macros, now you don't have to be it's like, hey, we want to go to Torchy's Tacos. Like, I can't have carbs. Like, do they have, or I can't have whatever. It's like, no, like you go and you get 2 like street tacos and a corn tortilla with some grilled chicken. I mean, that sounds incredible to me. And, and you're still eating food that's delicious without having to get, okay, I need 3 of the biggest just covered in cheese dip tacos that you have.
Which is what I get. Exactly. Make them trashy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Make it trashy. And so it's just finding that balance. It's now you can go out to eat with friends. You can have a glass of wine. You can have and do whatever and still partake in life. You can throw birthday parties for your kids and still be able to have a slice of cake and track that. Just being able to live life. At the end of the day, I want my clients to get progress, see results, to feel better, but to have that freedom to live life to its fullest and spend time with family and friends and go on vacations without just being like, oh, we have to go somewhere that has a salad. We have to go somewhere that has this. Like, just take a deep breath and relax and just enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and loosen up a little bit,
And I think that's what the cool thing is like watching you coach the clients. You use the language so much of sustainability and it's breaking that mindset of we're dieting or we're not. Like, no, we're teaching you how to eat for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have the parties, you're going to have whatever it may be. You're never going to not eat a cupcake again.
Sure.
Because you're on a diet. But it's going, like you said, hey, eat the cupcake, but you may make the conscious decision to go, listen, I know I could eat this cupcake, but really I'd rather have this at dinner time
Mm-hmm.
because I know it's going to make me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And so starting to make those decisions of what makes you feel good rather than I can or I can't. Because sometimes I think, and maybe this is just me conjecturing, the thing you can't have is more desirable than when you
always.
recognize like, oh, well, no, I could have that. I'm just choosing not to, right?
Sure.
I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a huge psychology proponent. You know, the more we focus on the bad things that we're not allowed to do or things like that, it becomes more and more tempting, you know, and Lord of the Rings having the precious, you know, nobody can have it. It's like, well, that just makes me want it more. And so I think that's a huge part of it. And it's just getting people to, like you said, live that lifestyle of, you know, if you run keto for 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever, and then, but again, if there's always an end to it, well, then what the heck do you do after?
Yeah.
You only work for so long, you plateaued. Like there's no cycling on and off. There's no like
Right.
navigating like, hey, you're tired of doing paleo. Okay, well then what the heck do you do now? And again, a lot of those paleo, vegan, like there's people that have health issues that have to eat a certain way. But for the general population, somebody lost weight on it, and so they want to hop on it, and they, you know, make these drastic changes. Some people even develop intolerances from trying out these diets and things like. So I mean, it's just figure out what you enjoy and then cater everything around that. Like if you like carbs, cool. Then here's how to strategically kind of set that up throughout the day. Here's how to have pre, intra, and post workout carbs that help fuel your performance. If you hate carbs, cool. Then have these small amounts pre and post workout, and then fats throughout the rest of the day. And once you kind of grasp that, oh, like everything is totally customized to me. And some people that's daunting. Then you go and hire a coach and let them do it for you. But for some people, you know, that want to set it up themselves and just having that freedom, you know, if you're listening to this podcast, like knowing that, okay, I need to break up my protein goal for the day, break it up into 25, 30 gram increments throughout the day until you hit your goal. And then carbs and fats can sprinkle in however the heck you want to sprinkle them in. So it, once they grasp that freedom, then it, with these super wide barriers. I had a professor in college that, you know, his kids are always like, oh, like, or he'd ask him, you know, do you want apple juice or orange juice? Well, like, what do you want me to have? It's like, I don't care, just don't drink gasoline, you know? And so that was always, that stuck with me forever. It was Christian formation or spiritual formation. So it was in the confines of making biblical decisions. But anyways, it's that same concept with eating of just like, you can have whatever you want. Like, don't eat a whole pizza, but if you want to have a slice or two, then cool. Yeah. And don't feel guilty about it, especially this time of holidays and stuff. Like, live a little, enjoy time, make memories, and then you're back on it.
Yeah, that one day of bad eating on Thanksgiving or going over your macros or whatever, you know, and you probably don't even have your clients track all that, you know, I mean, is in the grand scheme of things, is not going to hinder your progress. Now, you do that 5 days in a row, we're going to have a different problem.
Yeah, but for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, okay. So as we wrap this one up, though, people who, I think a lot of people have done fad diets. We know scientifically the numbers that are out there on who does them and why they do them. How do they find you as a coach, though, if they're interested in finding out more information of like, listen, you talked a lot about sustainability. You talked about finding things you enjoy, which I know even for me, I mean, being in the gym, if I've got to go do a workout that I dread doing, I'm a lot more likely to not go do it than doing something I enjoy. How do they find you as a coach online? Sure.
So I have Instagram, Facebook, and the whole thing, and these will be uploaded to YouTube and things like that as well. But my Instagram is Mike_fit-by-strength. And I try to post on there as often as possible, just free resources. And I'm pretty open about even the people that I listen and watch, post those to my stories just to give them credit where credit's due. And especially when it comes to the sustainability side of things, and trying to keep things as simple as possible. And then Facebook, same thing. Mike Wollard Training is my Facebook on there. So I try to post there daily whenever you're getting onto me, if I'm not. But yeah, that's where they can find me, and they can shoot me a message and anything else. Just to reach out. I'm always open to questions and stuff like that. And we're even doing free assessments and things right now. So if that interests any of you listening, just shoot me a message, and we can basically show you the client experience of what a day in the life of a client looks like, and hopefully get you on board. So we'd love to help anybody listening or watching. So.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds good. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, take advantage of those. What we do is we video based off of feedback that you give of what your goals are, what a program for you would look like. Kind of give you that visual kind of walkthrough a day in the life of a client, just to see exactly what's out there, knowing so many people have gotten ghosted by people or get signed up for programs that they're not interested in. And so Mike does a really, really good job of putting that out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And thank you all for listening and tuning in. And so if you guys have any questions or anything stuck out to you, feel free to shoot me a message. If I misspoke on anything or you have questions, I welcome all feedback and pushback. So feel free to shoot me a message and let's chat. So thanks again for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one.